Now, if you're using the machine regularly, I'm sure you're using the grip tool and the pinch tool. This is one of the tools that's probably one of the more difficult ones to put in. I just want to point out that there's a couple of tricks you need to keep in mind whenever you're using this tool. One is every time you squeeze, this square here in the middle rotates a few degrees. So when you're trying to get this lined up, and right now I can see that it's not in all the way because there's a big gap here. I can put my finger in there and wiggle it around. When the tool is in all the way, my finger just barely fits in that space. So as you put this tool in, the easiest way to do it is a little pressure here in the middle. I'm doing it with one finger and a few squeezes, and it slides in because every time I squeeze it rotates. You don't have to do any of this. I see people, I visit a lot of clinics, I do a lot of on-site training, and I'll see them doing this, and they're kind of really struggling to get that tool in. Okay, you can avoid that. A little pressure right here in the middle, a couple of squeezes, and that gets it to slip in all the way, and then you can tighten this down. Now, this tool is notorious for coming loose when patients are doing exercises because they really get into it and they start pulling a little bit unintentionally, but just their body mechanics are such that it starts to walk the tool out. So with this tool, you want to keep in mind using your spanner wrench, because with that spanner wrench you just insert a little push. You don't put a lot of weight into it, but it really locks the tool down so that it's not going to slip out. Okay? Now the last thing I'm going to point out about whenever you use this tool is that on the resistance setting, it's real important that you set the resistance the same in both directions. Okay? It's the only tool where that really matters, because all the others I said put it 0 one direction and put your resistance the other way. But when you use this tool, because it has this spring on it, if you don't keep the resistance equal on both directions, what happens is when they squeeze and they let go, sometimes that spring makes it go in the opposite direction just a little bit, enough to turn it into the 0 direction, and you'll have patients say, "Ooh, it slipped." They'll be squeezing and say, "Oh, it slipped again." We get calls like that quite often, and right away we know it's because they've got 0 in one direction and they've got the force set in the other. So for this tool, you want to keep the forces synchronized. So if you turn it up, and that's why in the middle of the two force settings there's a little check box, and if you check that, it synchronizes both and they both go up and down together. So once you've set the resistance synchronized, so if you make any changes they go up and down the same.